Lick it! I won't do a thing until you lick it. Do what I tell you.
There's a lot of living to be done. And if you want to live, there's some things that you just can't think about too often or too hard. Yeah, push them to the back of your mind, sort of, and...
Luda, honey.
I think I'm gonna faint. No, I ain't either.
Hey friend, welcome to my channel karinealourde, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars in history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so and turn your notifications on so you never miss an upload. Now let's get into today's video. Today we are talking about Ruby Dee. She has been requested so much, especially since the whole Will Smith and Jada Pinkett debacle. I know that's why you guys are here for, but Ruby Dee is far more than that. So we are going to get into a brief history of her life before we get into the juicy details of how she inspired a lot of Hollywood couples to get into open marriages. And I'm gonna list off some of those couples for y'all. So who was Ruby Dee? Ruby Dee was an uncompromising force in the entertainment industry who inspired countless people over the course of her career. She was an iconic actress, poet, playwright, screenwriter, journalist, and civil rights activist, and simply put, a trailblazer. If you're familiar with any of her films, comment which ones are your favorite. Her illustrious career spanned 7 decades and earned her numerous awards and honors. Her most famous role was as Ruth Younger in the stage and film version of A Raisin in the Sun. Her other notable films include the Jackie Robinson Story and Do the Right Thing, for which she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress and won a Screen Actors Guild. She also starred in American Gangster with Denzel Washington playing Denzel Washington's mom, for which she received another SAG nomination for Female Actor in a Supporting Role. Aside from her acting career, Dee was also a published poet and author. She wrote extensively about the African American experience, including a biography of her late husband, Ossie Davis, titled With Ossie and Ruby and This Life Together. Dee's lifetime of achievement earned her an impressive list of accolades. She won 2 Grammy Awards, 3 Emmy Awards, 2 Drama Desk Awards, and an Obie Award. In addition to this, she received both National Medal of Arts and Kennedy Center honors, as well as being named a Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award recipient. In addition to acting and writing, Ruby Dee was deeply committed to the African American community throughout her life, from supporting Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee sit-ins in North Carolina to participating in countless civil rights protests throughout the 60s with Martin Luther King Jr., Dee used her platform to speak out against racism at every opportunity. Now, let's get into her childhood before we get into the juicy details, okay? Ruby Dee had a remarkable childhood. She was born in Cleveland, Ohio on October 27th, 1922, to Marshall Edward Nathaniel Wallace and Gladys Hightower. Growing up in Harlem in the 1930s and 1940s, her childhood was filled with struggle, resilience, and determination. But she has some very fond memories of her childhood. When Dee's mother left the family while she was still young, her father remarried to Emma Amelia Benson, a school teacher. With her stepmother's influence, Dee attended public schools 119 and 136 before earning a degree in Romance languages from Hunter College High School in 1945. Dee has reflected on her upbringing fondly over the years. In an interview with The Guardian in 2006, she said, "It wasn't easy growing up, but we were a very close-knit family." She also spoke of how despite her father's job as a waiter, it never made them feel like they lacked any of the necessities of life. Ruby highlighted the importance of having strong role models within her family structure, saying, "In Harlem, it was not so much what my father did for me as what he represented, a devoted husband and father. I try to build on this ideals of loyalty and commitment in my personal relationships," end quote. Dee also spoke fondly of the friendships she developed during childhood, saying, "I made friends easily, the kinds who laughed or cried together, shared secrets, comforted each other, or just hung out." She added that it was these experiences that taught her how crucial it is to build meaningful connections throughout her life. Dee was also active with Delta Sigma Theta during this time period. She credits belonging to the sorority for much of her success and for guiding her personal development. She said, "The importance of being part of such a group cannot be overstated. These women were my mentors," end quote. Now let's get into her marriages. Ruby Wallace married blues singer Frankie D. Brown in 1941 and began using his middle name as her stage name. The couple divorced, unfortunately, in 1945. Ruby D. had an open marriage with actor Ossie Davis, whom she met while starring in a 1946 Broadway play. The two wrote a book together discussing their political activism and their decision to have an open marriage. Ruby D embraced this arrangement for many years until her views changed later on in life. In their autobiography, Ruby and Ossie discussed their open marriage arrangement and how it allowed them to both pursue additional relationships without sacrificing the strong bond between them. Ruby noted that the agreement worked for them because they both remained committed to each other first and foremost. She said that opening up the relationship was an act of faith rather than of license, as they were determined to keep it respectful and honest. In their joint autobiography with Ossie and Ruby in This Life Together, Ruby and Ossie discussed their decision to enter into an open marriage and how it helped them to embrace and accept the realness of the love they shared. From observation and reasoning, both partners agreed that extramarital affairs was not what really destroyed marriages, but rather the lies and deception that invariably accompanied it. "We decided to give ourselves permission to sleep with other partners if we wished," Ossie wrote, "as long as what we did was honest as well as private, and that neither of us exposed the family to scandal or disease," end quote. Although she didn't recommend this type of lifestyle for everyone, Ruby D expressed the benefits of being in an open relationship, stating that going through this experience was like rediscovery of something from the beginning. Ruby D has been outspoken throughout her life about advocating for respect of all different kinds of relationships, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. Her views on open marriages also seem to echo this sentiment when she said that couples should make sure there are rules about being considerate and kind before entering into any sort of non-traditional relationship structure. However, over time, it seems Ruby began to rethink her stance on this issue after witnessing some unhealthy dynamics in an open relationship that only seemed to serve one partner more than the other. In a guest appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show, Dee said that although she loved her husband deeply, she could not ignore how much pain her children experienced from the arrangement. Eventually, she decided that keeping a family together was more important than keeping her own life exciting. Ossie wrote this in the book saying, "But looking back, I'd say no matter what did or did not happen, we freed each other. And in doing that, we also freed ourselves. Sex is fine, but love is better. That's the most important part of being free. In light of what we learned, is extramarital intimacy something we recommend as a regular part of marriage? Not now, not anymore, not since AIDS has entered the equation and genital herpes, syphilis, and other venereal diseases," end quote. Ruby had this to write, "But we both came to realize that we were very fortunate that in all of the deep, profound, fundamental ways, we really only wanted each other. It was like a rediscovery of something from the beginning. It's not something that you'd recommend to everybody, but often, Ossie has said, and I've thought too, the best way to have somebody is to let it go. If it doesn't come back, you are free in another kind of sense, in that you find the strength to let go and wish somebody well. So we thought an open marriage was appropriate for us, but it turned out not to be. But then that's what we're all about. We are moving from one position to another in the process of trying to unravel this thing called life," end quote. Ultimately, although Ruby D initially supported having an open marriage with her late husband, Ossie Davis, she eventually changed her mind due to certain negative experiences she has seen from such arrangements. By doing so, she showed that even those who once advocated for certain paradigms can sometimes change their views if they come across evidence which challenges those beliefs. Now, it's no secret that Hollywood stars lead very glamorous lives, but few are aware of the open marriages many of them engage in. Ruby Dee's open marriage has certainly been an inspiration for many people in Hollywood, perhaps none more so than Will and Jada Smith, who credits Ruby Dee and Ossie as their role models for having their open marriage. The couple have been together since 1997 and also having 2 children together. Their relationship shocked many people, not only because they had a strong bond, but also because many look to them as couple goals. And it wasn't so much the open marriage that made it so shocking with the goals, it's the messiness of it all, if you catch my drift, right? The messiness of this person speaking out, that person, the anger, everything that happened with it. They have famously embraced the concept of an open marriage, with both agreeing to allow each other to explore intimate relationships beyond their own. They opened up about their arrangement on Jada's Facebook talk show, Red Table Talk, saying, "We have what we call life partnerships. You do your thing, I do my thing. I trusted that the understanding would be mutual." They further explained how these types of arrangements help strengthen their relationship by allowing them each to express themselves fully and openly without fear of judgment or criticism from the other partner. Most Hollywood couples are said to be secretly in open marriages due to the threat of infidelity. It is believed that the modern celebrity lifestyle can make it difficult for stars to stay dedicated and faithful to one another because there's so many groupies, right? So many groupies, so many enticing. Oftentimes you're on screen with another man, you kissing him, he's filling up on for the scene, right? And the husbands know, hey, my wife might step out. I've done many breakdowns for women also who were the ones that wanted the open relationship because they found it difficult for them to stay faithful. So it's not always just the men, just like there were men in Hollywood who did that. And it's funny how when the AIDS epidemic happened and started becoming rampant, that's when the golden age of Hollywood, so many people were dying from that because they used to have these parties, you know, these open parties. If you catch my drift, check out my Diana Doors video where she'd do these parties. She'd host these parties and it would blackmail these people, like videotape them doing various acts with different people and, you know, to kind of get them to bend to their will. Check out that video. Since the AIDS epidemic, a lot of people stopped promoting that kind of lifestyle or decided to, hey, let's take a step back from this. Or there'd be famous couples that would catch something and it'd be like a wake-up call for everyone else that, hey, we can't just be out here doing what we want because there is still consequences to this sort of freedom that everyone is seeking, right? But in a sense, it's pretty sad because some women like Demi Moore did not want that. So this explains also why so many famous people choose this less traditional route, because they're like, hey, you're gonna cheat anyways, you're surrounded by so many temptations, let me just ease my own pain and insecurity by just allowing this. So it's not always that they want to do this. Another famous couple who has discussed their open marriage publicly are actors Monique and Sydney Hicks. And Monique recently came out and said that she's attracted to women. The actress Tasha Smith also spoke openly about her open relationship with husband Keith Douglas in 2017 during an interview with Vlad TV. And other famous Hollywood couples who practice or have previously practiced open marriages include Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, David Arquette and Courtney Cox Arquette, Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, just to name a few. So many of the women do feel like it just benefits one side. It just benefits the men. And even some men who didn't really want this feel like it just benefited the woman, right? Because when we look at Demi Moore, which I did a breakdown video for Demi Moore also, she stated that she didn't really want to be in an open marriage with Ashton Kutcher, but she felt like he was going to cheat anyways. So she gave him room to be himself, right? But she regretted it. She just felt insecure and, you know, let things fly. But she's like, she would never do that again. And many people do share that sentiment. Comment below your thoughts. Open marriages don't seem to be going away anytime soon in Hollywood, even though there are still some critics of the concept out there who believe that the traditional model should still be, you know, taken seriously. Marriage, the institution of marriage, should still be respected. It seems like Ruby Dee's union will continue being inspiring to couples around the world for years to come. Now, as far as her activism, on a lighter note, Ruby Dee was a legendary civil rights activist who dedicated her life to the fight against, you know, bigotry and all those sorts. The late actress and her husband, Ossie Davis, has been widely recognized as two of the most profound pioneers of the civil rights movement, in addition to their film, television, and stage performances. They were also deeply involved in the struggle for racial equality. Dee was born into a world where segregation and discrimination were rampant. She vividly remembers seeing photographs of African Americans being lynched as a child. As she grew older, these sights only strengthened her commitment to fight for justice and equality. Inspired by the courage of those who came before her, such as Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, Dee began attending protests from an early age, from the age of 11. She joined picket lines to campaign against hiring discrimination and other forms of systemic racism that plagued Black people in America at the time. Dee's activism extended beyond simply marching in rallies and attending protests. She used her public platform to amplify important causes as well. For example, Dee emceed the 1963 1963 March on Washington, where Dr. King delivered his iconic I Have a Dream speech to an estimated 200 to 250,000 supporters, a moment that has gone down in history as one of the most significant events in civil rights movements. So Davis and Dee were arrested in 1999 while protesting the fatal shooting of Amadou Diallo by 4 NYPD officers. This case sparked national outcry over public brutality towards, African American citizens. Throughout her lifetime, Ruby Dee was an unwavering champion for civil rights who advocated for justice with an unrelenting passion and grace unmatched by anyone else at the time or since then. Her words still echo loudly today, inspiring generations of activists who are determined to keep up what she started over 50 years ago. Now, Ruby Dee passed away, unfortunately, on June 11, 2014 at the age of 91, so she lived a pretty long life. Her death followed by a lengthy battle of breast cancer. In 1981, Dee was diagnosed with breast cancer but managed to survive for more than 3 decades, thanks to medical advances and treatments. Throughout her battle with cancer, she remained an active member of the entertainment industry and continued to work until shortly before her death. Following her death at her home in New Rochelle, New York, tributes to Dee flooded social media platforms across the world, while friends and colleagues alike shared stories of their time spent with the iconic actress. Dee was cremated following her death, and her ashes are held in the same urn as those of Ossie Davis, her husband of 57 years who died 4 years prior, with the inscription "In this thing together" etched into it as a reminder of their enduring love story. Ruby Dee will be remembered indefinitely for all that she accomplished during her lifetime, from winning countless awards for her performances to breaking down racial barriers both inside and outside of Hollywood, and will remain one of America's most beloved actresses ever since she first stepped onto screen back in 1941. This is all I have for this video. She lived an iconic life, but I do want to know your thoughts on this whole open marriage thing. And what else do you think happened? Because she didn't really go into detail, but she said she witnessed a lot that created a lot of tension within the open marriage where they decided it wasn't for them. They realized, hey, this can get messy, not only with the illnesses, but it can get messy. It can quickly become an act, that, especially if you have kids in the mix, etc., it can get messy, right? But I don't know. Comment your thoughts below. To each their own. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. Comment below who else would you guys like to see. I love you guys. Until next time.